When given the task to interview someone on campus who is a leader, especially in a social movement or in a social aspect, it really didn't take a whole lot of thought for me to think of who I actually wanted to interview. A friend of mine, Aiden Median, had recently been elected to the president of SGA and was about to start serving as the student body president. I had met Aiden sophomore year. We had international relations together. We sat next to each other the entire year. He understood the concepts a lot better than I did. And then we kind of formed a connection there. The next semester, he actually ended up joining my fraternity, and we've gotten to grow a lot closer through that. So I've had the ability to know him pretty casually, become closer, and then I've been able to see him take on leadership roles in our organization, and I've been able to watch as has taken on a leadership role on his campaign and as he goes and moves into the student body president. Um, so when I was talking to him, there was a few things that after our course material was very clear that he excelled in, and I think looking at the different approaches of how he took leadership and communication is probably what I took away most of it, and probably what I took away most of the course is the different approaches to leadership. The trait, skill, and behavior approach, I think, really show the way that someone has the ability to be a strong leader. So I went through the three different approaches and I looked and saw what I thought was applicable to the way that Aiden led, not only as the SGA president, but as he led his slate through the campaign. When they were campaigning, the issue that they focused most on and that I focused most on during my interview was they wanted to get a second Blue Loop. For those of you who don't know or don't live on the side of campus that the Blue Loop is going through, it really is just a bus that goes from on campus to off campus, down Neely to Riverside, and then back onto campus. This gives people who live off of campus the opportunity not to have to walk an extra mile to get onto campus. This has been pretty much their flagship platform point and what we spent most of our time talking about. When I got thinking about the trait approach, which the book describes, there's multiple different traits. There's no set list, but people believe that there are traits that make people a strong leader or not a strong leader. And that list has varied over time and depending on which scholar. But I thought the two that are pretty consistent throughout every different scholar's list is self-confidence and determination. When talking to Aiden, he's very confident not only in his platform points but also his slate, and then that they're going to be able to accomplish the second Blue Loop. And I think this is really important for someone who's a leader. They have to believe that they will be able to reach their goals for the people following to be able to do the same. I also read an article by Deep Patel, who is a writer for Forbes, that was all about the 11 different traits that you need to be a leader. And one that he mentioned was self-managing. I thought this was really applicable to Aiden. He's in ROTC, he serves on IFC, he's student body president, and so that's a lot on his plate, and he does a good job of managing himself and not having people have to tell him when he needs to do things, and I think that's really important for a leader. If someone's having to tell the leader to get stuff done, there's not going to be a lot of productivity. I then went on to look at the skills approach, and the book defines skills kind of different than traits. They said skills are what a leader can accomplish, where traits are what they do. So there are three different types of skills. There's the technical, human, and conceptual skills. And I think to be a good leader, you got to have a mix of them. Technical skills are the job skills, like what you need to do, like a accountant needs to be able to do your taxes. That's a technical skill. Human skills are how well you work with people. Leaders got to be able to work with the people that are following. Otherwise, they're not much of a leader. And then conceptual skills, which is ideas and coming up with new concepts, new ideas, and really looking forward, which is what a leader has to do. And I think Aiden does a good job of doing all of these. He knows the skills he needs to do in his job. He knows how to lead and be to run a slate and to run a campaign. He also, not only does he have to work with his own slate, he has to work with people outside of his group, and he has to lead people that he doesn't know as the SGA president. So being able to work with people is really important for him. And finally, he has to have conceptual skills, which I think he represents in thinking of adding a second Blue Loop. Like, that's a new idea. He thought about how practical it would be and how useful it would be. And I think that shows that he's able to conceptualize and think of new things to be better, which a leader needs to do. In another Forbes article by the Forbes Coach Council, which is a group, they do career coaching. There's no one specific author. They talked about the 16 skills that you need, and one was listening, and I think that's really important. I've definitely followed a leader that did not listen to anyone else's opinion, and I don't think this is what Aiden does. I know that he listens to his slate, listens to his advisors, and I think that that's a big reason as to why his slate won, is he listened to other people's ideas and input and got more perspective. If you don't do that, I don't think you can be a great leader, be more of a tyrant. And finally, the behavior approach. So it's just how they behave in different interactions. They can either come across in a structuring manner or a nurturing manner. I don't think one's worse than the other. I do think that because of Aiden's ROTC background, he comes from more of a structuring approach, which means when people are having problems, he doesn't more like sympathize with them. He finds structure and finds a way to make it better. And I think that that's really important in this role. Overall, I really enjoyed being able to sit down with someone who's a friend of mine and have a conversation to learn about what they do outside of our friendship and our organization that we're in together, to be able to see kind of a full perspective of what they do. And overall, that was really neat. In conclusion, I think Aiden does a good job of leading by incorporating all three of these approaches. He has strong traits that help him lead. He uses the skills that are needed in his leadership position to be able to succeed. And then he has the right behaviors. He reacts to situations in the correct way that a leader should. Overall, I think these three things really stuck out to me as to why Aiden did a good job leading. Thank you.